Hi again, YouTube. It's that one guy from Lit class, here today to continue a series on how to write an essay. Today, we'll be focusing on how to write body paragraphs. If you haven't already watched part 1 on thesis statements, you may wish to do that now, as this video will assume you already know what a thesis statement is. Jumping right into it, body paragraphs are, put simply, the place in your essay where you should give examples or use logic to try and prove your thesis. In other words, body paragraphs should support the argument that your thesis makes. But that's all well and good and seems easy enough, but how does a body paragraph do this? Well, let's break it down. Each body paragraph usually starts with a topic sentence. The topic sentence lets the reader know what to expect in the paragraph. Think of a topic sentence as a mini thesis. In the same way that you don't want your thesis to be vague or unconfident, your topic sentence shouldn't be that either. The idea is that taken all together, the topic sentences for your body paragraphs should all argue for your overall thesis from paragraph 1, with each topic sentence helping to add something to that argument. If you are using the tripartite or three-pronged thesis we talked about in the last video, your topic sentence can be about each of the reasons you chose to defend that thesis. Even if you aren't using that format, your topic sentence should in some way defend or explain your thesis statement. Once you have your topic sentence, your next job is to provide some kind of evidence for the argument that you'll be making in the paragraph. Usually this means that you need to use a quote, a statistic, or some kind of real-world example, depending on what your essay is about. Now, this next part is something that a lot of students in my experience struggle with. After your quote or statistic or whatever, you aren't done. You can't just drop in a quote and say, well, that proves my point, and walk away. You still have to write a few sentences explaining how your quote or statistic or whatever actually proves the argument you're making in the topic sentence. Even if you think it should be obvious, you still need to make the connection. As a teacher, I trust that you can use Google to find a tidbit of information. What I'm looking for is that you can understand it well enough to use it accurately in the context of a larger argument. And if you don't explain why the quote or statistic or whatever you chose is in your essay, it looks like you just found it and decided to drop it in randomly. Once you've explained your evidence, you can either introduce more evidence and repeat the process or bring the paragraph to a close. When you're ready to move on, your paragraph should end with a transition sentence, which helps set up your next paragraph. A transition sentence doesn't have to be anything too complicated. You essentially just want to remind the reader that what you just talked about reinforces your thesis, and that what you're going to talk about next reinforces it as well. In my thesis video, I gave an example thesis of Gatsby is in love with the idea of Daisy rather than her personhood, as shown by his obsession with her wealth, his desire to be known by her friends, and attempts to fit in with her society. Now, if I wanted to write a transition between body paragraphs 1 and 2, I might say something like, not only is Gatsby interested in the idea of Daisy's wealth, he's also interested in the people that she surrounds herself with. This then would lead into the next topic sentence, which might be something like, Gatsby clearly wants to be known by people he thinks Daisy thinks are important. And then you build your paragraph from there. See how those two sentences work together to shift the focus of the essay away from one reason and on to another one? Good essays do that almost without trying, leading a reader further into the essay smoothly without any sudden breaks in the flow. Finally, I want to talk about a way to take your essays to the next level once you've gotten the basics down. One way to really prove you know the topic is to actually argue against your thesis in the first body paragraph. In doing this, you present the arguments against your thesis first, and then use the rest of the essay to disprove those arguments. This can be very effective when you're trying to do a persuasive paper, as you acknowledge that not everyone agrees with you, but you still lay out why your argument is best. This requires you to prove your thesis, but also to disprove the arguments you laid out in body paragraph 1, so it's a bit more complicated than a regular essay. This essay type is sometimes known as a straw man essay because you're setting up a straw man argument that you intend to knock down in the remainder of the essay. Okay, I hope this video has brought some clarity to the process of writing a body paragraph. There's a lot more to it than you would think, but the good news is that most body paragraphs follow a very similar format, so once you learn that process, you're good to go. As always, thanks for watching, leave comments or questions down below, and good luck. The next video will be on intros and conclusions. Cheers!